Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So I was watching one of Ramit Sethi's videos talking about his rich life, and it kind of got me reflecting on what is considered my rich life, right? And it varies per person depending on your goals, your age, your situation, and your circumstances, right? So for me, currently I work as a high income W-2 as a pharmacist, making over $200,000. I own 52 units of real estate and built up a $6 million net worth, right? So by the financial independence, retire early community standards, I basically made it, right? A lot of people, they've retired early with net worths of $1 million, $2 million, and I'm at $6 million, right? My net worth increased by $1 million just in 2024 without doing much, right? So if you were to live by the 4% rule, I believe. And so at $6 million net worth, let's just say I sold everything and dumped it all into an S&P 500 index fund for simplicity. It's just making it super extreme. After taxes and all that, maybe I have $5 million left over. And if I invest that, growing that at 7% a year on average, and the intent is you want to live off 4% of that money, so that you never touch your nest egg, right? And this is not applying the rules of dial zero, right? This is just sustaining the nest egg. It's still growing, but also you're able to retire and pull some of that money to live your life, right? So at that point, so at $500,000 or 500,000, so basically 1% of that would be, I don't know, my math's like doing so terrible. I think it's $50,000. And you times that by 4, so $200,000, right? So at $200,000 a year, so I can basically live off $200,000 a year in income, which is a pharmacist income, and basically sustain my nest egg, right? So if I needed to live off of, let's just say, $400,000 a year, then I would chip down my nest egg by about $200,000 a year, right? So that's how you kind of do the math. So $200,000 a year, which is by all accounts, I would say it's almost fat fire. You know, I do live in a high cost living market, and like, what would I do if I were to just sell everything, dump it in index funds? It's a lot more passive, right? And I thought about it, and I was like, at first, I was like, you know what? So that's almost like a little bit under, maybe that's like 18K a month, something like that. My goal was 20K a month in passive income to replace my W-2 income and my fiance's W-2 income, which, 18K, 20K a month is roughly around that, right? So I just said, okay, what would be like my rich life or our rich life? And at first it was just like, you know what? I just want to travel the world and do whatever I want when I want, right? So that's basically two parts. The first one is travel around, and the second part is do what I want when I want. And right now, with most W-2 jobs, I can probably travel maybe 4 to 6 weeks a year. And typically, I like to go on 2 week vacations that are international and long, right? So I did a Japan trip for 2 weeks, and I'm doing a trip to Taiwan, Bali, Malaysia, right? And then I want to do another trip after that. I did a trip to Greece, France, and we like to hit multiple countries when we go international for at least 2 weeks. So if I have 6 weeks off, I can go 3 times a year. If I have 2 weeks off, which I currently do right now, I go 2 times a year, right? I think my sweet spot, honestly, is maybe about traveling 4 times a year. So that's about probably 8 weeks of travel. And that's once every quarter. So once every 3 months, I would like to go somewhere for 2 weeks would be my sweet spot, because it's you have to plan for the vacation, you have to do the vacation, and then you have the post-vacation, fatigue and whatever, right? So I'm like, like I'm not too far. Like, my job is flexible, and they're just like, hey, you can go about pay as long as someone else is there to cover you. That's fine. So I could probably travel 3 times a year. My fiance is probably the limiting factor. It's hard for her to get time off. But like, okay, maybe. So let's just say right now I realistically can travel 2 times a year. I could push it to 3 times a year. My rich life would be 4 times a year, and I'm almost there, right? Like, so in terms of travel, I kind of have that doing W-2. Now, in terms of like doing what I want when I want, when you have a W-2, there's obligations, right? Like, I have to show up Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, and you're expected to always be there regardless how you feel. I am salary, so it's a little more flexibility. But for me, there's just my rich life right now would be like if I somehow had a kind of like a hybrid schedule, or imagine like a lot of tech workers, you're on site maybe 2 3 days, you're remote 2 or 3 days, and because there's just 2 days a week where you're just like, my God, I don't feel like making the commute in traffic. Just want to stay at home, focus, get some work done, and then not worry about the commute, not worry about packing your lunch, not worry about, getting dressed and getting ready. And, you can save that 2 hours of commute to go to the gym, exercise, and relax, or for me, create more content. So that would be my rich life right now, right? Because I think I like to work, to be honest. Like, I like to do something. And, um, it's just a nice balance to go to work. You get a lot of skill sets in your W-2, and you can apply it to your businesses. So it's very translatable. So that would be my ideal rich life. And there are opportunities like that in pharmacy that you can be hybrid, right? Like, you can be a hybrid. I don't think I like being fully remote because it can get lonely. But to be able to show up to office, 2 or 3 times a week would be the sweet spot for me. So there's that. And then in terms of my next part of rich life is like kind of doing what I want whenever I want, and not worrying about money, right? So like overall, I am pretty frugal, but what I don't compromise on is experience. So for me, like when we travel, we don't really care about staying in a nice hotel. It's not a bad hotel, but it's not like Four Seasons. It's like your mid tier, middle of the pack hotel. Because the way that me and my fiance travel is we rarely stay in the hotel. Like, we only go there to shower, sleep, and rest. And we're usually out the whole day. Right? Usually we'll wake up and be out the door by 8 and come back to like 10. That's our typical day. And then we'll like shower, rest, and relax. Right now, unless the vacation's like an all-inclusive resort, then by all means we'll spend more for a hotel. But if I'm barely gonna be in the hotel, why do I want to spend like $500 a night when I'm barely gonna be there? I'd rather spend less, $100 a night, and use that $400 to do some experiences. Right. So like we were very value based in how we travel. Like, we pick a nice hotel, a decent hotel in a good location that can get us to a lot of places that we want to go. But realistically, we're not in there often because we're out and about exploring the area and the city. That's how we travel right now, right? That may change if we have kids and a family and all the circumstances change, right? So, so to be honest, like when we travel, I think it's relatively inexpensive, but like each trip averages maybe $3,000 to $4,000 depending on the trip, each of us. And we can clearly afford that because that's like a paycheck for us, right? And then we have PTO, so it covers it. So like travel, I don't splurge any expense. If I want to do something, I'll do it, but I will skimp on like hotel, right? And then for flights, we try to find reasonable flight prices. But like when you go to Southeast Asia, the most expensive thing is the flight. Everything else, like the food, the hotel, it's pretty cheap once you get to that point. So that's how we have the best of both worlds. So like and in terms of material goods, I feel like I have everything I need already. Like, I'm not a very materialistic person in general because like stuff just creates clutter, and that stresses me out more than the value it brings to me. But don't get me wrong, there's something that I like, right? Like, I wanted a new car, then I got a Tesla, right? If I need a new laptop because my laptop is 7 years old, I'll buy a $2,000 laptop, right? I have a TV, like, right, I'm sitting in front of a huge 86-inch TV, which I bought for $1,000, right? So if I want something, I'll buy it, right? I don't skimp on it, but I'll just try to find a reasonable deal on it if I could, right? And save money where I can, right? So, I don't feel like I skimp on anything. Like, I have I'll be honest, I have like so much clothes that I never wear. I have so many shoes that are brand new. I've never worn them. And I bought them like 5 years ago, right? So I have enough shoes to last a lifetime. I have enough clothes to last a lifetime. And, clothes doesn't really, I mean, as long as it's nice, it fits well, and it's functional, great, but if you look at your closet and things you own, you don't touch most of it, right? So, for me, if I want it and it brings value to me, I'll buy it. Like, I don't really question it. I work hard for it, and why not enjoy, right? So, in terms of that aspect, I'm really my rich life. And then another thing too is like I'm doing things that I like to do. Like, I like to learn, I like to grow, I like to develop, I like to constantly improve myself. I like to learn new things, do better in any way I can. Spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, physically, whatever that looks like, I like to do it. So in terms of the aspect that I am living my rich life, I would say I am living a rich life. The only thing is just that flexibility of, maybe being hybrid worker schedule. If I had that, I would honestly have no other complaints, right? So it's really interesting when I learned that, despite hitting a $6 million net worth, despite all this, like I could sell all that and retire right now, but I'm like, you know what? Right now, this makes sense for me for my rich life. But if I have kids and my priorities change, then maybe my rich life definition will change. Maybe I want more time at home. Maybe